Maxim stood before the old mansion, its silhouette looming against the gray evening sky. The house seemed alive. Windows, cracked and dusty, reflected the fading light, and the creaking gates echoed in the silence like a warning, "Do not enter." Inside, the air was damp and cold, smelling of old wood, must, and the faint scent of children's toys. On the first floor, dozens of dolls awaited him. Large, small, cracked faces, empty eyes. The moment Maxim's flashlight illuminated them, they all turned their heads toward him at once. His heart leaped into his throat. He stepped forward and heard a faint creak above. Footsteps. No one was there. He spun around, and the doll on the staircase was gone, while another on the shelf now stood on the floor. His breath grew shallow, a chill running down his spine. A soft whisper floated through the air. "Stay forever." Maxim tried to reason with himself. It's just my imagination, but each passing minute proved otherwise. The dolls shifted positions. Those lying down rose, seated ones stood. Standing dolls tilted their heads, all watching. Ascending to the second floor, he entered a narrow corridor, walls peeling, cobwebs covering the ceiling. Each room held more dolls, sitting, standing, lying, some perched on windowsills, observing every step. Panic gnawed at Maxim, cold seeping into his bones. Hour by hour, the dolls became more animated. In the living room, a giant doll with a cracked mask turned slowly toward him. Maxim backed away, but the door slammed shut. Whispers echoed from the corners, "Stay forever." His flashlight barely pierced the shadows, which stretched and twisted like living forms. The dolls moved more and more. Lying dolls rose, sitting dolls stood, standing dolls tilted their heads. Maxim tried to flee through the hallway, but doors slammed shut. Staircases creaked as if resisting him. In the basement, he found old crates of dolls, some charred faces cracked. Opening one crate, all the dolls simultaneously opened their eyes and turned toward him. A draft swirled around the room. Shadows thickened. The whispers grew louder, now forming words. "You are ours." Desperate, Maxim fled to the attic. There, a giant doll, face fully cracked, stood in the center. It raised its hand, and all the other dolls slowly rose as one. Maxim realized the house had claimed his attention now. He was part of the collection. He lunged toward a window, hoping to escape, but the glass reflected not the outside but an endless corridor filled with thousands of dolls. Every step backward amplified their movement. The breathing behind him grew louder. Shadows wrapped around his legs. Thoughts raced. "I can't stay. They'll take me. They're alive." The whispers continued even when he closed his eyes. Each stay pierced deeper into his mind. Hallways twisted, doors changed position. Staircases rotated as if the house itself was alive. Dolls pursued him, some crawling along walls, others suddenly appearing in front of him. Faces cracked, empty eyes, whispers and floor creaks creating a horrifying rhythm. In the basement, he stumbled upon an old doll workshop. Toys on tables moved, scissors twitched, brushes fell to the floor on their own. Maxim tried to escape, but the door blocked him. Dolls slowly encircled him, their eyes glowing in the dark. He attempted the attic stairs again, but the floor trembled, new dolls appearing beneath his feet. Panic overwhelmed him, heart pounding. Internal monologues screamed, "I cannot stay here. They'll claim me. They are alive." The attic was his last hope. The giant doll stood in the center, thousands of smaller dolls rising toward the ceiling like an army. Maxim rushed to the window, and again saw an endless corridor, hundreds of eyes watching every move. At dawn, a neighbor came to check the mansion. The room was empty. No Maxim, no flashlight, no trace. Only the dolls remained on shelves and chairs, their eyes as if they had just watched a new visitor. And now the question for you. If you were trapped inside a house where dolls come alive and watch every movement, could you escape, or would you become part of their eternal collection? Maxim stared out the car window as the urban landscape gave way to a winding country road. His breath fogged the glass, momentarily obscuring the view of the dilapidated mansion looming up ahead. It had been abandoned for decades. Rumors spoke of strange occurrences within its four walls, but he shrugged off those stories as superstitious nonsense. He had come for a different reason, drawn by an inexplicable urge to see it for himself. When he got out of the car, the silhouette of the house stood imposing against the gray evening sky. The setting sun painted the clouds with hues of blood orange and deep purple. Large dark windows gaped like vacant sockets, reflecting the fading light, while the rusted swing gates creaked in the wind as if warning him, "Do not enter." Maxim hesitated for a moment, feeling an unexpected surge of apprehension. He pushed open the gates and stepped onto the overgrown path leading to the front door. As the rusty hinges of the gates screeched their mournful song, the silence that followed seemed almost deafening. He could feel the weight of countless untold stories pressing down on him, whispering tales of a bygone era. The mansion seemed to exude an aura of melancholy, a melancholic beauty that tugged at his soul. It was as though the house itself was sighing, lamenting its lost glory days. Reaching the porch, he noticed a rocking chair on the right side, its gentle rocking a soothing lullaby decades ago. Now it was a chilling reminder of happier times. A shiver ran down his spine, but he shook it off. As he mounted the steps and reached for the doorbell, a sudden gust of wind slammed the door shut. Startled, he jumped back. Had someone been hiding there? Or was his imagination playing tricks? Hesitantly, he knocked, but no response came. He tried the handle. To his surprise, the door swung open, revealing a musty interior. Taking a deep breath, he stepped inside, closing the door behind him. The air was damp and cold, smelling of old wood, must, and the faint scent of children's toys. His gaze fell upon a wide staircase in the corner. Its banisters twisted like vines, reaching out toward him. A faint glow emanated from the top, beckoning him to ascend. Above, the shape of a rocking chair swayed rhythmically, although no one was there. Stepping further into the house, he found himself in a large room filled with dolls. Dozens of them sat on shelves or leaned against furniture, their eyes seemingly boring into him. Some were large, others small. Their faces were cracked and dirty, their limbs askew. Many stared blankly ahead, their eyes hollow and soulless. Others sat with unsettling grins, their teeth unnaturally sharp. It was like walking into a nightmare. The closer he got, the more their eyes seemed to follow him. He stopped abruptly, feeling a sudden dread. Then he noticed something disturbing. All the dolls had turned their heads toward him as if sensing his presence. Even the ones that had been lying down propped themselves up on their elbows to stare at him. Their gazes were unwavering, their expressions malevolent. His heart leapt into his throat, fear constricting his breath. The silence was thick with menace, broken only by the distant creak of the house settling. The moment he stepped into the room, he felt their eyes boring into him, weighing him, judging him. A chill snaked down his spine, wrapping around his heart, squeezing the breath from his lungs. He wanted to scream, to run, but terror had frozen him in place. Suddenly, he heard a faint creak above footsteps. Someone was there. His heart pounded against his ribs, threatening to burst free. He spun around, his eyes darting frantically about the room. But everything seemed unchanged. The dolls were still staring at him, their expressions as cold and lifeless as before. Then he noticed something. One of the dolls on the staircase was gone. He blinked, certain he'd imagined it, but when he looked again, the doll was nowhere to be seen. Moments before it had been there, yet now it was simply vanished. Had it leaped over the railing and fallen? Or had it simply melted away into thin air? He took a shaky breath, trying to calm the erratic beat of his heart. But before he could gather his thoughts, he heard another creak. This time it came from the shelf above him. His eyes snapped upward to see the empty space where the doll had been sitting, but now it stood on the floor, staring at him. Its porcelain face was ashen, its eyes hollow pits of darkness. Terror clawed at his throat, stifling any cry that might have formed. He stumbled back, knocking over a nearby chair. The sound echoed in the cavernous room, seeming to mock his fear. He scrambled away, tripping over his own feet. The doll remained motionless, its gaze unwavering. Suddenly, a soft whisper floated through the air, carried on a draft that sent shivers down his spine. "Stay, forever," it beckoned. He froze, unsure if the voice had come from within him or from the very walls of the house. But then another whisper joined the first, and then another until a chorus of voices echoed through the room. "Stay, forever." His mind reeled, struggling to comprehend what his ears had just heard. Could he really hear the dolls talking? Was his sanity slipping away? Or was there something more sinister at play? What should he do? Run, hide, scream? But as he stood there paralyzed with fear, he knew he was caught in a terrifying game, a macabre dance with the dolls. He forced himself to look away from the whispering dolls, focusing instead on the staircase. Had he imagined the sound? Perhaps he could leave, pretend it had all been a figment of his imagination. He started to climb the stairs, his eyes fixed on the banister. Just as he reached the top, one of the dolls on the landing swiveled its head. Its blank eyes locked onto him and a cruel smile stretched across its cracked lips. Then the other dolls turned, their smiles widening, their eyes gleaming with a sinister light. A wave of nausea washed over him. How could they move? Were they alive? Had he been trapped all along? Panic tightened its icy grip around his heart, making it hard to breathe. As he stumbled into the next room, a narrow corridor, the whispers followed, their voices echoing in his ears. "Stay, forever." Peeling wallpaper and cobwebs draped across the ceiling gave the room a desolate, forgotten feel. And at the end of the corridor stood another staircase leading upwards. But before he could decide where to go, he heard footsteps behind him. Turning, he saw the doll from the landing descending the stairs, its eyes never leaving his. At the foot of the stairs, it stopped, tilting its head as if listening to something. Then it beckoned with a finger. He wanted to scream, to run, but fear routed him to the spot. Another doll appeared at the top of the stairs, followed by another and then another, until a procession of china-faced specters marched down toward him. Their eyes burned into him, their whispers weaving a spell of dread. "Stay, forever." They formed a circle around him, blocking his way forward. Trapped, he searched for an escape, but found none. The windows were barred, the doors locked. The house had become a tomb, sealing him inside its chilling embrace. He started to panic, his breath coming in ragged gasps. But amidst the chaos of his terror, he heard a sound that made him freeze. A soft, rhythmic creaking. It was the sound of rocking, like someone had begun to rock one of the chairs on the porch. But no one was there. As he watched in horror, the rocking grew faster, the creaking more frantic. It was as though someone, or something, was racing toward him, eager to claim him as its own. He stumbled back, his heart pounding against his ribs. He turned and fled, racing down the corridor. The dolls pursued, their whispers growing louder, their eyes blazing with malevolent glee. He could feel their presence at his back, their breath hot on his neck. In the distance, he heard the sound of shattering glass. The dolls were getting closer. Their touch would mean eternal damnation. But how could he escape? Which way should he go? He turned left, finding himself in a large room filled with furniture draped in white sheets. Shadows danced on the walls, cast by the flickering flames of a nearby fireplace. The dolls crowded around him, their whispers forming a chorus of torment. Stay, forever. Driven by blind terror, he dashed to the far corner, but as he turned, he tripped over a rug and fell. Scrambling to his feet, he saw a rocking chair glide past him. It was moving on its own. He watched in stunned silence as it approached a window and slowly began to rock, gently at first, then faster and faster. The glass shattered, allowing moonlight to flood in. The rocking chair stopped abruptly. Then he heard the sound of footsteps on the roof. Something was climbing down the side of the house. His mind reeled, struggling to grasp what he was seeing. The dolls pressed closer, their whispers weaving a net of fear. Stay forever. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the window. It was tall and thin, with long, spindly arms. Its face was obscured by the shadow of a wide-brimmed hat. It beckoned with a finger and a raspy voice called out, "Come with me." Torn between the desire to escape the house and an inexplicable urge to help the mysterious figure, he found himself stepping toward the window. But as he did, a cold hand clamped over his mouth, stifling his cry. Turning, he saw one of the dolls standing directly behind him. Its eyes burned with an eerie glow. Then, as quickly as it had appeared, it vanished. He whirled around, searching for the doll, but it was nowhere to be seen. He looked back at the window, but the figure was gone. Had he imagined it all? Was his mind playing tricks on him? But then he felt a cold sensation, like the touch of a corpse, brush against his cheek. Turning, he saw a sea of dolls staring at him, their eyes gleaming with malevolent glee. Stay forever. They whispered, their voices echoing in his ears. He was trapped, doomed to wander the halls of the mansion forever with the whispering dolls. Now it's your turn. If you were trapped inside this house, would you try to escape or would you accept your fate and stay forever? Share your thoughts below. Also, don't forget to show your support. It really means a lot. Thanks for watching.